Hey, welcome to Taylor's Trick Taking Table. I'm Custom, and today we are doing a From the Vault video. I know I'm supposed to be on sabbatical, but I thought it'd be so much fun to do Pups, Taylor's version. Nice. This is an outstanding game designed by Charlie Bink and art by David Jackson. Adorable, adorable dog art by David. And there was some community discussion about if there are, I think, 1,000 people who want this to be reprinted. They might go to Kickstarter. And I've been asked by multiple people for copies of this, so I wanted to maybe highlight it, get some buzz going, and maybe we can get this reprinted, because I think this is a delightful, delightful game. The hook is you have cards that can add to each other, and you also have a very interesting bidding system. I don't think I'm doing it too much service. Join me at the table, and then afterward for why I think this is such a wonderful game. And I think if this also looks great to you, I think in the description I might include a way to reach out to them to maybe ask for a reprint. Hopefully, fingers crossed, paws cross. No, toes cross? Or toes? Okay, so this is a hand, right? And then it would be called a paw on a dog. Is it still their toes or fingers on a paw? Claws cross? No, claws are the top of it. What's the appendage? What's the digit of a dog called? Dog fingers crossed. Things work out. Anyway, let's go to the table and I'm going to show you why this is such a great game. The deck in Pups is mostly for suits numbered 1 through 10. There is a mutt suit which has pluses 1, 2, and 3 of each. Here we have a game of Pups set up for 3 players, so each player is going to get a score pile, dealt 7 cards for the round. These are the bidding cards, which I'll explain in a little bit, and then an alpha. This is just going to dictate what trump is for the round. So from the generous amount of cards cut, you're going to flip one, and that is going to be the trump. So the yellow is going to be trump for this round. Then you put aside the deck of undealt cards, and you're ready to go. Starting with the start player, let's say it's Yamper over here. They're going to look at their cards, and they're going to bid on how many tricks they think they're going to win. So Yamper sees that they don't have any trump, which is a little scary, but they do have kind of a high blue or an 8. Let's say they think they're going to take 1 trick about. So what's cool in this game is when you take one of these cards, these 1, 2, and 3, notice that they say at least at the top. So you can either take it as an at least 1 trick, or you can flip it a little more riskier and try to say, I'm going to take exactly 1 trick. Yamper isn't quite sure what's going to happen, so let's just say they take at least 1 trick. So then you go to the next player, which is Arcanine. They have a large trump, a few other trump. They also have some high numbers, and then a mutt card, which I'll explain, which is pretty good. So they are actually thinking they're going to take at least 2. And so finally comes Growlithe. Look at their hand. They also have some really high trump. Let's say they think they're going to take exactly 2. So they are going to flip it and say exactly 2. So after all the players have bid, I'm going to move these now, just so we actually can have space to play trick taking. As you can see on the top of some of the cards, there are these green bones, and those are good points if the player hits that bid. On the bottom, there are these red poop symbols, which will be flipped, and that's if they miss their bid. So notice, the more riskier the bid or the higher number, as you can see over here, you can have more points if you hit it, but more points or more negative points if you miss it. So see how the 1 just has 1 and 1. If you flip it, it's 2 and 1, and then the 2 goes from 2 and 2 to actually 4 and 2. So the person who bids the highest or has the most amount of bones at the top of their bid is going to lead the first trick. Growlithe is going to lead to the first trick, and they could, if they wanted to, add a mutt card. Mutt cards are kind of like plussing that number to any suit if they wanted to. So they could make this an 8 blue, but they don't want to for now, so they're just going to lead the blue. So coming to Yamper here, it is a must follow game, so they have to play one of their cards. Maybe they're like, this is the time I'm going to take my at least 1 trick. Coming to Arcanine, it is a must follow, but they don't have any, so they can trump in if they wanted to. They are going to do that. They're going to play their lowest trump. So highest the lead suit wins unless there's trump, and then so that would win. So Arcanine is going to take the trick. They're just going to collect this and lead to the next trick. So if they wanted to, and they're feeling saucy, they could play the +1 and the 9, and so now that's actually a 10. And again, it's must follow, but this player over here doesn't have it, so they aren't going to follow. They're going to trump in, and then Yamper is having to follow, and they're realizing they might not win a trick this round. So Arcanine's going to take the trick. So the interesting thing of the game is, as you can see, we have just been leading and playing the suits, and we've been using the mutts in a fun way. Mutts are actually their own suit. Wild. So you can lead a mutt. You can even add a mutt to a mutt. So this is actually a 2 mutt, and it still must follow. So, or mutt follow. So Yamper would have to play a mutt if they had one. They don't. They're just going to play their lowest card because they're realizing they're a little scared right now. And then it comes to Arcanine. If they had a mutt, they would have to lead it, or follow it. So back in this example, when they played that 1, let's say they hadn't played that 1 and kept it, they would follow suit, play it there. And so it's high, so the mutt suit would win because there's no trump here. If that didn't have it, they obviously would trump and win. So they would win the trick if it was like this. But let's say they had that mutt, they had to follow it. So now the 2 in mutt would win. So now Growlithe would take that trick and then lead to the next trick. Maybe in another trick, and kind of an alternate timeline, we go to a spot where Growlithe still has the mutt. Perfect for this example. So if you ever play the same number and win the tricks, like in this case, a 10 and trump and a 10 trump, it actually wipes the trick. Nobody takes it. Bloop, 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 bloop. And the player who caused the wipe or the tying would lead to the next trick. So that actually would be Arcanine. Play continues until any player is out of cards because, with the pluses, you can get rid of cards a little bit quicker than maybe other players like Yamper over here who didn't have any mutts or pluses. So then you're going to see who hit their bid. So Yamper took 2 tricks, which means they at least took 1, so they hit their bid perfectly. They are going to take their bid card and put it on the positive side, boop, up top here. If you miss your bid, like Arcanine didn't get at least 2, they would have to flip it, and that is now -2 points in their score pile. Coming over to Growlithe, it looks like they perfectly hit their bid at 2, so they got it. And that's, again, exactly. If they would have taken a third trick, they would have had to flip that, and it's 2 minus points. But instead, they did hit exactly, so they got it. So then you would collect this, and an important part of the game is these top dog cards. So these go to the player who took the most tricks. So if it was, Growlithe who got 3, they would get an additional point, which is great. But in that last example, where Growlithe took 2 and Yamper took 2, and no one got the top dog, who again goes to the player who took the most tricks, and they have to be uniquely the player who won the most tricks. So if it was tied, this just gets discarded out of the game. Because this deck is the timer of sorts, so you play 7 rounds. So as you can see, there's 7 top dog cards. So this will kind of keep track of how many more rounds are left in the game. There are a few other things to explain, like the exact 0 bidding. So if a player took the exact 0 and hit it, they can put it down in their arsenal over here to be used later as if it was a trick. So for example, let's say Yamper in the next round bid 0 by taking this instead of the 1, 2s, or 3s, and then got 0. They get this in their arsenal. And then next round, maybe they bid exactly 2. And then during the trick play, they only get 1 trick. Usually that'd be really bad because they'd have to flip it and it'd count as poop. -2 points. But since they have this from an earlier round, they can spend it and it counts as a trick. So they got the 1 from the trick play, they count this as another 1, and then this now is exactly 2. And now this is positive points. The last few things to explain are the player who starts the bidding in the next round is the player with the most points. If tied, you can flip this coin if you want to, which is super cute. It comes with the game. It says heads or tails. Let me see if it focuses. Yeah. And then also, another fascinating thing about bidding is in the next round, if a player has these negative points here, they can, instead of taking one of the cards on offer, like the 0, 1, 2, or 3, they can take one of their previously missed bids and flip it back over here out of their score pile. So they take out those -2 points, and then they use this again as their bid. And they can flip it to either side, which is great. So they could have it be exactly or at least. The con is that they don't get any new cards, and they have to kind of be forced into what they have over here as negatives. But the pros are they lost, or they get to save 2 points because they take it out of their score pile, and they might even win. They might even get at least 2 and then get 2. So it's a kind of like a 4-point swap. And the very last thing to explain is if the mutt card comes up here, mutts become trump, which is absolutely wonderful. I love to see it when it happens. So then players will keep playing rounds until they've gone through this entire top dog deck, and then whoever has the most bones at the end wins. So that is Pups, and what a wonderful, wonderful game. First off, it is just probably one of the most charming art styles and graphic design ever. I absolutely love all of the cards having different dogs and kind of this wonderful popping art style, and the suits. Sometimes suits are a little bit small, and I do wish they're on both sides, but other than that, the graphic design is just absolutely stellar. The coin that it comes with, which, you know, isn't used too much in the gameplay, is a lovely, lovely touch. It's a wonderful thing, and players seek out times to flip it. They might cause disputes for no reason, because in the rulebook it says, flip this if there's any disputes among players, and sometimes players cause disputes just to be able to flip that wonderful coin. I love the fact that the bids have the bones in green and the poop in red, and then kind of the background art with the different bones and the squiggles. It's just so charming. Everything looks so cute and is so wonderful. Even the promo pack that I got with the 10s and the +4 mutts are so fun, like Cerberus and Leica. The game kind of just oozes charm. Sorry to gush from the front on that, but it's genuinely one of the cutest, most adorable, charming lookers of a game that I have come across. To the gameplay, so many smart things in the gameplay that I think people that are new to trick taking will enjoy. It'll kind of make them be like, oh, trick taking, very interesting. And then people who are hardened vets will absolutely adore. I think the bidding system is super, super slick. The fact that you have these options, right? The 1s, 2s, and 3s, and then the exact 1s, 2s, and 3s, and then the 0, which helps you in future rounds for using the exact. Such a clever mechanism. I love that it's all doubled. You can kind of get close to making big moves later on in the game that I really appreciate. I think the bidding is absolutely spectacular. And the fact that a missed bid can then be used later as a hit bid is so clever. There's kind of that opportunity cost and a little bit of like sunken cost fallacy, where players will sometimes kind of like dig themselves in holes trying to hit that one bid that doesn't really work for a hand. But it's, you know, the player's choice, so I don't mind it. It's really interesting and it's super funny to see that one player try to hit that exact 3 every single time, when it probably was better for them to maybe go 0 and then get some of those another wonderful mechanic, those exactly 0 cards that help them reach that bid a little better. So overall, great bidding system. I also think the trick play is great. I love the fact that the trump, when it comes out randomly, can be the mutt card. I think that's what saves it for me. I'm never a fan of games that have random trump when all the suits are the same. It's like, what are you doing? You're just putting undue pressure on the players to like remember what trump suit is. It always bothers me. But when the mutt suits trump, things get a little wacky. It feels a little bit more trick-taking-ish. And then it becomes, do I want to use this mutt for trump, or do I want to use it to make the other ones better? It's really cool. I really like that decision space. I almost kind of wish the mutt suit was trump more often. But it is fun, because it is so rare that when it does happen, it's like, woo, special. I actually kind of include the +4s from the promo pack often, because it just makes the mutt suit a little bit more and a little bit spicier because it goes with 4. So I have been gushing a lot, and I don't mean to do the mid review turnaround, but the things I don't like about the game that sadly hold me back from giving it the seal are, I think it's a little bit comical how many cards are cut, like a little bit ridiculous. Like even in the teach you saw so many cards of that deck, because what is it? It's 45 cards, and then you deal out, you know, a 3-player game 21, so roughly half the deck out. I think that's a little much for my taste, and the hands are a little small for my taste as well. I know the bidding helps mitigate that, kind of both issues, but it just feels a tad too random, and a tad too... I've played well in the game, I've seen players play well in the game, so I don't think it's terribly big of an issue, but it does kind of feel a little too wacky and a little too loose for my tastes. Added to the fact that I think, this is maybe the bigger con, is I think the game goes on a little bit too long for how loose it is. I don't think I've ever seen the game be too terribly close, because players will either kind of get in that sunken cost fallacy and try to re-hit a bid, and if anybody hits their bid at the start, it's like opportunity cost, I think, after that. But it's like, they are not having to worry about flipping those minus points that they messed up earlier into positive points now. They can get a new bid or bid 0 and then use that to get a safer thing. So sometimes it seems like, most of the times it seems like there's a player completely out of it by the 5th, 6th, 7th round. And that seems meh. I think the game slightly feels a little bit silly and wacky in the deck makeup and how many cards are dealt, which is super small. And the fact that hands can end short, like super short sometimes if someone gets dealt a lot of mutts. But then a little bizarre in like how exact the bidding is, bidding control, and then also kind of a little bit of the brutality of missing bids in this game, because it does feel like oof if you miss a bid and then you try to make the next hand work and then you miss it again. It's like oof. There's some silliness to it, but it is like a little bit longer of a game. So I think the game's a little long for how silly it is. I think some will see this as nitpicking, and I hear it when I say it. But I do get that sense where the game is slightly at odds with itself, maybe just for me. But besides that, I think the gameplay's fun. I think the bidding is amazing. It's always a wonderful time playing it. I absolutely love seeing these dogs and trying to hit your bid, and then sometimes people end it early and it's like, even though I say it as a con, it's a light game, and it's always fun to be like, meh. I just think sometimes I think the game is a little long for how many meh moments. Overall though, super enjoyable. Again, reach out to them, Bink Inc. I know they did Twin Palms, and I think they said again that 1,000 people wanting Pups might lead to a reprint. I've had messages, I've had many people reach out to try to get this game. So maybe this video, hopefully, will help stir some people wanting this game as well. Who knows? Anyway, thanks so much for watching, and I'll catch you later.